Hello and welcome, my creative friends. I am so excited to be here with you all, and I'm fussing with my lights a little bit this morning because they feel really bright. That's why we're a live show. So happy to be back with you in my pajamas in my own studio here in Loveland, Colorado. It's been a few months of travel, and I have nothing now until September other than maybe some fun weekend adventures. So I'm excited to really dig in this summer to reestablishing my own creative practice, my own consistent creative practice. So I'm going to continue this summer to play in my intuitive collage journal that I created here live last month on my YouTube channel, Painting in Your PJs with Manette. If you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notifications button so you get notified when I do go live on my channel. And thank you for those of you that continue to show up time after time, even with my crazy schedule lately. Tori, Lisa, my beautiful friends, thank you for being here. So happy to be back with you. And I was thinking this morning about the just long laundry list of things that need to get done this summer and things that need to get done today and all the things that I want to work on. And my mind was just spinning a little bit with a lot of these ideas. So I wanted to share with you guys some of the ways, because I often get asked, how do we really establish a consistent creative practice? I hear so many people complain about, I don't have time, I don't have this, I don't have that. And I was sitting on the couch talking to my husband about getting back into a gym routine because I have not been going at all with all of this travel, much less going consistently. And it's very much like a creative routine where it takes a plan. And all the things I know and have learned about being a business owner over the last 20 years 100% apply to my own creative practice and my wellness practice. So I wanted to talk about some of those things a little more. And so what do we do when we get off track and how do we bring ourselves back? And I'll chit chat about that while I kind of dive into my journal here and decide what I want to work on. And I'm going to kind of hold all of these thoughts loosely this morning. Just soften these lights a little bit. I'm going to hold all of this loosely while I work on this journal and just sit here and flip through some things that are lying on my desk this morning. Zoom that back out. So this is the journal that I started in thinking I was going to be playing in it a lot more than I have. I had so much fun creating it. I have all kinds of fun little bits and bobs. Love this lady in particular. And I did create a lot while I was in Eugene. Well, then I didn't take this journal with me when I went to my girls' weekend this last weekend. And I was glad I didn't, because one of my friends gifted us each a journal, and we made journals while we were in Andrea Sheblu's Watch Learn Playhouse in Oregon City, Oregon. And I haven't brought all my things down to the studio, but I'll show you some of the fun things that we created while I was there. Oh, and I realized I was going to grab some pressed flowers this morning. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun. So this was where we ended up, and I opted not to take this book. Like I said, I'm glad I didn't. I took a half empty suitcase, brought it back half full of books, including books that I had made and papers and cigar boxes from the local antique store. And what a great experience it was. There was something so inspiring to be with my peers and people that love the same things that I do. And it was a joyful reunion. All four of us had never been together before. We've been in a business mastermind together for probably over 3 years now, and this was the first time all four of us were together, and Andrea's house was a perfect place to gather. It was just an absolute delight. And so I'm coming back feeling rested and revived, and then also feeling like, holy shit, there is a lot to catch up on and do. And a lot of creative ideas that are rolling around in my head, and a lot of business ideas and practical things and getting healthy again. And so I'm like, okay, where do I start when I come back from a journey like this one? And how do I get back into my routine? Well, the first thing is I made some notes on my little scrap paper here. One of the things that I do that really helps me is to unpack right away and put everything away. I actually did a couple of things I realized before I left that made a huge difference. The first was that my studio was neat and tidy when I left. Not overwhelmed so much, Tori, as just that's such a great question. Um, I spent just 10 minutes getting everything out of my head and onto paper, because when it's on paper, then I can decide, and I'll talk more of that, what to do with it and where to dive in. But before I left my studio neat and tidy. So when I came down here this morning, I didn't even come down yesterday. It felt great. I haven't brought all my stuff down and put away my the art things and the books that I brought home. But I also made some soup before I left, and I froze some of that, so I had something ready to eat when I got home. And the biggest thing I think for a consistent creative practice is keeping it going while traveling. So I did a lot of art making because I was at an art weekend. But a lot of times, we think, oh, I'm going to be so busy. I can't do this. I can't do that. But for me, 5 or 10 minutes a day keeps me connected with my creativity. Even doing just a little bit of doodling and journaling on the plane yesterday morning helped a lot, right? So I think we tell our self stories about what we can't do. I had this conversation with my husband yesterday afternoon. He was telling me about this podcast he was listening to. And it got us, thinking about getting back to the gym, which is going to be daunting. I haven't been for a while, so I know that first day back, I'm going to be really sore. And the recommendation for older people is resistance training is the number one thing that we can do to improve longevity. So thinking about it through the lens of I want to be strong and fit in my 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so I know how important it is, but I went into a whole story about I don't have time to spend hours and hours at the gym. It's a 15-minute drive each way. I got to get cleaned up to get back to work. It's like, when can I fit this in? And that's what created some of that overwhelm, was thinking about how am I going to fit in all the things that are important. And so when we hold too much in our heads, it gets really overwhelming. But once we put it down on paper and learn how to prioritize it, it becomes a lot simpler. So I did some prep before I left. I kept my creative practice going while I traveled, even if it was 5 minutes a day of just jotting a few things down in my journal or snapping a few photos for creative inspiration for when I come back. I have lots of those. And then unpacking things right away. Like I got clothes put away into the laundry right away, so that there's not this like extra clutter around, because clutter can kill creativity. The other thing for me is getting back on my daily schedule ASAP. I'm lying there in bed at 6 a.m. This morning going, I need to get up and get going and get right here on YouTube. And because it's so important for me to have that consistency, because consistency in one area of my life begets consistency in other areas of my life. Taking that time to journaling, getting everything out of my head, and then you have to make a plan. I don't know why we think that in our personal lives, we don't need a plan like we do in our professional lives, but planning matters. And we can create plans that are flexible and offer a lot of freedom and don't cause our inner rebel to kick into high gear. So I'm a big fan of making flexible plans. What do I mean by being really drawn to this woman? So I'm going to cut her out here. and see where I go with this. So what do I mean by, and I love these little birdies too, a flexible plan. So what happens when you hear about things like time blocking, right? Or, scheduling every minute of your day. I don't know about you, but I'm like, ugh, no, that does not sound fun and creative. And yet I know personally that I am so much happier when I have some structure and some choice. Some structure and some choice. My husband and I used to have a podcast together called Structure and Flow because it's so important. It was all about helping creatives build businesses because creatives tend to really resist structure. We think it will inhibit flow, but structure creates freedom in our lives. And structure doesn't mean it has to be exactly the same every single day, nor does it mean that you can't have choice and freedom, right? I mean, your schedule, most of my audience is, retired, right? Like nobody's telling us our schedules. I know some people are still working, but even your time outside work time, it's your time. And you get to decide how you're spending that time. She is so stinking cute. I love this. This is a quilt and this is all stitched. And my friend Ali Manning was working on some stitching where she had done this writing in her stitching. And I'm going to have to try that because I thought it was so stinking cute. But I'm going to start with this little bit here, super, super fun, and see where I can get to. I pulled one of my cards for this morning. So here's how I don't know why, but I really love this magic fish. I think it reminds me of Rainbow Fish, which is one of my daughter's favorite children's books. And so here's the secret. Are you ready? I know I'm talking all over the place this morning. So my mind is feeling a little bit scattered and I'm trying to art and give some useful information all at the same time. You can tell me if I'm making sense or not. So if I say that I am going to block out 90 minutes to get some focus work done. Good morning, Crystal Seeker. Great to see you here. You like your list making. You need them so you don't get overwhelmed. 54 years old, right? Our brains are more full than ever. We just can't hold on to all of the information. And so I've been teaching and writing about this stuff now for about 15 years. I'm a time management and productivity geek. I think it's so important to learn how to do it in a way that nourishes and sustains us as creatives. And when we can see it on paper, then we can prioritize it. And what happens is that we tend to put projects on our to-do list, not tasks. What do I mean by that? Well, if I sit down, if I have on my to-do list every day, write my book, right? That is a project that is, anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 years long. But if I sit down and say, I'm going to work on illustrations for chapter 1 today, that's a task. So learning to break things down into bite-sized pieces takes a lot of the overwhelm out. But the other thing, when I sit down and create blocks of creative time, I give myself choices. So for example, on my work to-do list for today, we're revising and updating our quiz that we created about the creative superpower. It's going to change names and some of the language is going to change a little bit. We're just refreshing. I'm refreshing a lot of things this summer, which I'm super excited about. And so on the list, I need to write an email newsletter today. I need to work on these quiz updates and get them finished today, and about half a dozen other things on my list. Only one or two of them actually have to be finished today. I have 2 things that need to be finished for work today. The other things, it would be nice to get to them. I just love these little birdies. They are so stinking cute. I think this is fun. This was somebody was making handmade stamps out of fun foam and cardboard for texture, all different kinds of things. And they are so stinking cute. I love making my own foam stamps, if you're wondering what I'm cutting out here. And somehow these little birdies and this little quilty lady are all going to go together. So when we say, okay, I'm going to try some time blocking and I'm going to give myself 90 minutes to play in my studio today. What our creative brains love is choice. So rather than saying I'm going to go to my studio and I'm going to work on X painting or write a blog post or, write a chapter or whatever, have a list of 2 or 3 things that you give yourself permission to do while you're in the studio. They're all things that need to get worked on. And this, I think, has been one of the biggest secrets to my own consistency in my creative practice, and especially in my morning routine. Is my morning routine happens every single day, rain or shine, regardless of where I am, but it never looks the same 2 days in a row because I have a list of things that I love to do. I might write, I might paint, I might color, I might sketch, I might stitch, right? So I might meditate. I might use my mala beads. Speaking of beads here. So I have an assortment of things that for me all fit in to that time allotted every morning for my personal morning creative routine. And my brain is so happy it's why I think morning pages in this sort of traditional Julia Cameron style didn't work for me really well unless I had, the accountability of a group to do it with, or I would do it for a while and then I would get bored. When I gave myself permission to come down here and have a list of things that nourish me creatively, then I looked forward to coming down. I didn't feel restricted or constrained. So I think that's like been the biggest secret to being super consistent. But coming back from vacation, all I wanted to do was, sit and look through all the books that I got while I was gone and not do anything this morning. But what I know is if I come home and I get right back on my creative routine and get going right away, that I'm so much happier and that I will feel better and the whole day will go more smoothly because I made time to come down here, do what I affectionately call a brain dump, get everything out of my head and onto paper. And then I came here to be with you guys, which is also part of my morning routine, a few days of work. My day is going to go well because I came back and I'm consistent with my practice. Does any of that make sense? I'm curious if other people have things that they do that help them stay on track with their creative practice and their creative routine. But for me, it's like, I don't want to talk about discipline. I don't want to talk about, rigidity or having everything being the same. These magazine images are so glary this morning, but they're either glary or dark. But I do know, just like my kids when they were itty bitty, that I personally thrive on routine. And I notice that I thrive on routine and I'm really good at it in some areas of my life. And then I have other areas of my life where I struggle consistently eating healthy or getting to the gym consistently. And so I get to have a conversation with myself, and my journal's a great place to do that and just remind myself kindly and lovingly that routine nourishes and supports me. Accountability nourishes and supports me. I still want to do something with this dude. I think I'm going to paint watercolor grounds on him and then tint him with some watercolor or maybe some watercolor pencils and use him in a future collage. But he's floating around on my desk and is just so stinking cute. So this morning, whether I'm tired or not, right, I am down here doing the things that I know work for me and getting right back on track. Right? And it would be easy to say, oh, I need to go to the grocery store. Oh, I need to do the laundry. Oh, I need to. But I also know that nothing will make me feel better than getting down here in my studio and getting some words and some color and some ink on paper. I love that, Carol. And just, it's such a good example of just inquiry of what might work, right? When pain stops us, that's a great excuse, right? I mean, not excuse. I mean, it's a reason, not an excuse, my friend. A great reason to take a day off. And I love the inquiry of, oh, maybe if I just cut magazines, right? And so it's figuring out what's possible regardless. I mean, obviously, if you're sick, if you're in pain, you're not going to be consistent in your routine. If you can get in a groove, you're good, but starting or restarting. So, Tori, I love that, Tori, is hard. So, make a list of what are the things that help you find your groove. Is it writing? Is it coloring? Is it tangling? One of the things that helps me when I come back from being away is having a started canvas. So not coming back and jumping into a brand new routine. This is all very green and blue. Interesting. So again, I'm noticing colorways. I think it needs that little pop of bright there. Thinking about, what can you have ready to go when you come back so that you know that you can just step right into a project. So that's something else that helps me. Before I left, I have a design for a new painting. I have a canvas that I started painting out, and it's just waiting for me to dive into the project. So the project's already in my head, so I know that I can step into the project, if that makes sense. And that, I think, also makes a difference. She's pretty cute. I'm trying to decide. I'm thinking I might want some paint on the background. I'm just flipping through. I have some landscapey images here, but I feel like she needs some yellow or some bright behind her there. That's so funny. This is sitting on my desk, and this is almost what the view from Andrea's studio looked like, with the beautiful cows in the field and the gorgeous skies, but the trees were a lot taller. The trees there are so magnificent. I was so happy being among the tall trees. Yep, something already started makes a big difference. Yeah, I love this because it kind of reminds me of where we were. That's a little better, but no, I'm still feeling like she needs a bit of a painty background here. But I think the thing is that we have to be like constantly asking ourselves about our creative practice and reminding ourselves of the benefit of why are we doing this? Like why are we so drawn? What do we think? How do we think our life is going to be better or different if we have a consistent creative practice? What I can tell you, for me, it's calming, nourishing, grounding, keeps my anxiety and my nervous system in check. It keeps my brain limber and active, right? So for me, it's the time I do that deep inner work that is a big part of my personal creative practice. Another idea is to, when you're coming back from a practice and you feel completely creatively stuck and you don't know where to go. So one idea was to have a project that's midstream you can jump into. Another might be to take one of those classes you bought that is sitting in your computer somewhere that you haven't started or haven't finished. So on my to-do list today was a couple of classes that I purchased that I've been waiting for summer to jump back into. I wrote those down to remind me to go do them as well. Prompt decks, like our summer prompt deck, our 52 prompts for intuitive collage, right? So having something outside of you to bring you back in. And I am loving working with these prompts. Yeah, I have a few classes like that as well. Used to have Tuesday as your art day to do nothing else but having an hour first thing in the morning every day. Yes, once a week and a whole day is a lot. Like we spent so much time in Andrea's studio, like, because we wanted to maximize the creative time that we had. And what I found was that by the end of the day, my brain is mushy and I'm tired, but an hour every day feels a lot more consistent. And if you don't have an hour, 30 minutes a day, and then I still want a whole day on a weekend to play in my studio. So it's both and, not either or. It's about making sure that it's consistent. It's not even about the length of the time. It's about the consistency. So I loved this prompt this morning. Explore the concept of bridging worlds within a collage, bridging past and future, conscious and unconscious, mundane and the magical. How can you navigate and integrate these different realms in your life? And this to me kind of brought together a lot of what's going on in my head. What are the stories I'm telling myself? What are the everyday things like laundry and groceries and cooking that need to get done? And am I making time for some of the magic, right? For the play and the curiosity and the exploration, for getting outside in nature in our beautiful summertime here, right? So I'm really in this, bridging creativity invites us to be in that imaginal space. Trying to open my gesso. Oh, invites us to be in that imaginal space, right? The liminal space, and to just play and be curious. And the more we do it, the more creativity it begets. I think there's a famous quote, it's attributed to Maya Angelou, I think, but the more we use our creativity, the more creativity we have. And I think that is so, so true, right? The more we use it, the more it shows up. It's at the ready. It's on the tip of our tongue. All right, I'm going to focus here for a few minutes and get some paint down on this page and quit my yapping. So on Thursday, on New Year's Day, I'm going to send out an email today as well. I am going to, until I haven't used my paints in a while. I'm so ready to get back to painting. On Thursday, I'm going to do a longer little mini painting marathon on July 4th. In the morning, starting at our same old time. I'm going to do something related to painting freedom and independence. Kind of probably will follow on some of the same themes. I'm not always good at it, Carol. I think it's just practice. My stepdad always says that too, because he and my mom will listen in the mornings, and he's like, I don't know how you talk and do that all at the same time. I guess just years of teaching experience, perhaps. All right, that was what I needed, was some happy color, right? Just getting, like, if all I had were 5 minutes and I came down here and I put color on this page to prepare it for something later, I would be happy. Happy, happy. I'm just using this page here. I'm just trying to clean off my scraper. I love a good scraper. I can't believe I didn't bring my journal and stuff down here to show you guys. I'll do that another day. I had so much fun. So I'm going to set this aside to dry for just a second. And one of the things we did was went to a really fun antique store in Oregon City, and I got some paper dolls. What else did I buy there? Ooh, I got an awesome cigar box. Let's see. Allie got a box of really cute handkerchiefs. Like, we got all kinds of things, but I was delighted. I had been thinking about this book as inspiration for the fall retreat, and getting paint all over my camera. Brad will have a fit. About this as inspiration for the fall retreat in October. And I remember this book from years ago, and I found a used copy, and I am so excited and about finding this treasure. It's a Flower Fairies journal. I don't know if anybody remembers these books. And it's like brand new, and I got it used for $8. And I'm just looking, like, I can make color photocopies of these fairies to use in my collages. And this is just such a treasure, and it's inspiration, I think, for, things that we could make on our own. It's like almost like one of the first types of sort of, yeah, right, Lisa? Yay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. These things are glued in, like it's an actual, somebody feels like someone's journal, and this gorgeous handwriting, and I think all these pages can be copied and used, but it's so fun to look at all the little ways that we can add things to our art journals, right? All the beautiful little sketches and illustrations. There's a map, an unfolding map in here, and it just is so magical and delightful, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it. I love this. How to disperse glamour through the use of a four-leaf clover, right? Just super fun, charming illustrations. But for me, it's a good reminder of how simple pages can be, right? Like, they don't have to be really complicated. Could disintegrate if handled roughly. What does this say? Extremely delicate, almost transparent in parts. I think this is a very fragile treasure. This is supposed to be maybe like a fairy wing, and you can see it's like a little bit shimmery. Look how sweet this is. And it just goes on and on. Oops, that part's glary. But I love going to antique stores for inspiration. Look, there's a letter that folds out. So when you're looking to find inspiration for your own creative practice, go to an antique store, a thrift store, a junk store, a flea market, and look for things outside of the studio or outside of your normal. This one's Tales of Grateful and Helpful Fairies. I love that. So that one's all typed up in there, right? And look for things that you can bring into your creative practice that are new and different. So a lot of times when we're feeling stuck, there's a reason why Julia Cameron always talked in the artist way. So there was the morning pages, but then there was the artist date. So going to an antique store is a great artist date, right? So these are all just fun ideas. Dear Cicely, all you have to do is look and you will find us, right? Oh, look, this is a little viewfinder with little pictures of fairies in it. How stinking cute is that? You can see there's little fairy photos inside. Just such a treasure. And I could paint this. I can make my own journal out of it. I can make copies. I can, leave it as it is, but it gives me all kinds of ideas and inspiration for things I might want to try in my own creative practice, right? So don't be limited by things you see or things that you've always done. Instead, look around and say, what else is possible? One of my favorite questions, what else is possible? All right, let's see what she looks like when we get her. See, I think that's what she needed, some pops of color there to make her stand out. So now we're going to need the bluebird. And I love this little magic fish. It's still a little bit wet. I'm being a little bit impatient here. And I think maybe that little butterfly wing needs to hang off the journal page. And that color's still not quite right. And I'm wondering if it just needs maybe a little bit of the green down here to kind of ground her a little bit. That feels a little bit better. So she doesn't look quite so much like she's just floating in the air. So I'm looking at this and thinking about that question of integrating and navigating the magical, the mundane, the conscious, the unconscious, the past and the future. How do I go from this restful, creative weekend that was so amazing right back into the busyness of my life? Well, fortunately, I don't have a busy day. A couple of things got canceled today, and so I don't have any meetings until this afternoon, right? So I have a morning to just kind of be with myself. So when I'm done here, I'm going to get out for a walk before it gets hot, right? So making time for rest was so important and so needed. And yet I can't come back and jump right into work. I need some time to bridge the gap between the two. And my creative practice is usually the way that I bridge that gap, giving myself permission to play, explore, and just be for a little while. Even doing laundry, the grocery shopping, are all ways that, I can get ready to move back into the busyness of that daily schedule. Maybe Mr. Fish is going to go over here on this page. This feels like it's going to get filled up with some writing, and so I may just gesso over this page so I can still see some of that color and have some of this writing, but I want to sit with that question. When I think about the busyness of the days ahead, they're good busy by all means, all exciting, wonderful things. Like everything is stuff I'm excited about. None of it feels like drudgery. There just is a lot of it right now. I can ask myself, how can I bring the magic in? How can I make sure I'm staying present to my creative and spiritual practice? How can I bring that into the laundry, the cooking, the exercise? Right? Questions, questions, questions. I'm a big fan of just asking myself these questions. And one of my former clients, an amazing client who's a beautiful writer, Tam May. She writes historical fiction, and I love her Adele Gosling murder mystery series. If you love murder mysteries, they're fabulous, available on Amazon. And she posted a question and tagged me on Facebook today about always asking, is this going to move me closer to the life that I want? Actually, that might just get written on here because it's such a powerful question. When I think about integrating the mundane and the magical, right? The unconscious and the conscious, the past and the future, and I want my focus to be right here and now in the present. I don't want to be living past and future. I want to be living here. I am the bridge. And so maybe having that question here on the page, will this move me closer to the life that I want? Right? Is this moving me closer to my dreams and goals, or is it moving me further away? Potent question. So maybe that's going to go on here. So now I'm slowing down a little bit, thinking about where to go. And what I'm feeling right now is that she needs to just sit here for a minute. I don't feel ready to glue this down. trying to see what the little beads say. It says quilt and it says alive in the beads, which is fun. Yeah, I think she needs some grass in front of her. And she doesn't feel like she's floating. I might need one more of these. I'm going to see if maybe there's a part of a birdie. I need a birdie in a different color over here to kind of maybe mirror the bird. Love the magic fish. Okay, I'm going to put some gesso on this page. I'm going to let her sit there and rest. So one of the things that I would do, and I'll do this when I'm done because I left my phone over there, is take a picture of this as it is. And so I remember where things were, or I can always come back to it, right? I loved, the fairy wings. I've been creating a lot of characters with wings lately. So I'm wondering, does she need wings? That feels a little bit better. So maybe she needs a wing where it's like that butterfly is sitting on her shoulder there. All right. I'm going to tone this page down a little bit. And when we're working with any kind of intuitive collage like this, and we're responding, we're kind of holding a question or a prompt, these pages can become very much dialogues and interactions with our connection to spirit, connection to our own inner knowing and wisdom. And we have to be willing to take the time. So many times I get on here in the mornings and I'm like, I want to have a finished thing to share, right? Or, I'm not going to have time later. I want it done. And remembering that my own advice that this is about the process, not about the product, not about the destination. And so she's feeling very much, I was thinking the same thing, Carol, about cutting the butterfly wings, but she's feeling very much like a paper doll, right? And so she has some life and some action, and maybe she wants to be free to move around, kind of like I did with this fun tag in the beginning. That this did not want to be attached to a page, right? Like she's going to become part of different stories. She's feeling that same way. So what if, this becomes like a little pocket and she gets tucked in that pocket, but these other parts get attached to her. So the wings aren't quite the right shape to have them be kind of, okay, these lights are really bugging me this morning. I apologize. Zoom in on her. She's so stinking cute. Look at that. And this is all hand stitched. All that amazing texture and the words are all hand stitched. So what if we let them sort of peer up above her shoulders a little bit? Oh, there we go. Right? So we just have to really play until we get that just right. Zoom that back out a little bit. Okay. So that feels good. I love when you guys give me input on my pieces because it always makes them better. And oh my gosh, it was so much fun to be working this weekend on a mixed media page or the cover of my journal and to get input from these other amazing artists who were like, try this or try that. And so everything turned out even better. Okay, there she goes. Isn't that cute? Yeah, done in layers at different times, new perspectives. Yeah. I'm glad it's a virtue for you, Lisa. It is not one of my virtues. I have to work really hard at patience. And I think her birdie wants to travel with her. But when she's by herself, I like this birdie on her shoulder up here, but then I lose the butterfly wing. What if we get really silly and that bird is right on top of her head? Not so much. There we go. Let's put the birdie down here. Yeah, she definitely wants to be able to fly around. That's a great, right? And then again, by doing that and not feeling the need to like stick her down, all of a sudden it becomes magical, right? It doesn't become just another static collage, but it becomes this really fun piece. She does, and she feels very magical. She feels very wise. She feels like, she's connected to her own self. There's a lot of confidence in her. So she's a great example of, again, being that bridge between the mundane, right? And this needs a little bit of blue in here. I kept looking at it going, okay, it's not quite what I want. Let me grab something blue here. And it just needs a little blue in that sky. There we go. Feels better. Too straight. Much better, right? Then it's just all starting to come together. The story is getting clearer and clearer as I go. Okay, that gesso is still wet. There she is. Now she's coming together and she feels fun and playful. It is a story. Every single one of our intuitive collages, just like in Soul Collage or the Journey Circles work that I do, or every single, page that unfolds in here. Look, and there was the fairies before I went to Oregon, and I found that fairy book, and it's all purple. How funny is that? But every single one of these pages tells a story, right? Whether it's an obvious story, whether it's an emerging story, a shadow story, a reminder of a place that I visited, every single one of these is a story. But boy, does she have such a fun story to tell. And I love her being loose, tucking in this pocket. I'm feeling like maybe I want that pocket to be a little bit bigger. All right, to make the pocket, I'm going to use some double stick tape because that will seal it better and the paper will adhere to it, unlike glue stick, which wouldn't necessarily make as strong of a pocket as I wanted. So I'm going to use my score tape here. These are just some scrappy bits that were floating around on my table. And I want it to be as narrow as possible so that I have more pocket, right, and less tape. This is the best double stick tape ever is score tape. I love that because it's like a secret pocket. You can't quite see it. It fits right in with the rest of the image there. But then she's just going to, well, his little legs need to get tucked down. She's going to tuck right in there, but it's like a movable feast. A movable feast. Love, love. So fun. All right. And then Fishy is going to go here. And then maybe we'll have one more little birdie as part of the journey. And then that question that feels so important to me today when I think about the things that I'm doing and the direction that I'm going. Is this moving me in the direction of my dreams, right? And my goals and my desires, or further away? So she's going to be my guide on that journey and that inquiry for the next few days. So on Thursday morning, 4th of July, I am going to be doing some intuitive painting on canvas. We're going to step away and do something a little bit different. And I'm going to go probably 2 or 3 hours, do a little mini painting marathon on July 4th. So if you're around early in the morning with nothing to do, grab a canvas or a nice art journal and join me. We're going to paint our way into some freedom. I have some ideas, and it'll evolve before I get to Thursday, but super happy with where this is going, and my sweet little lovely magic lady here, and also feeling like this the question is important and I want to remember. So I'm thinking I might even take a photocopy of this, fold it up, and maybe stick it down in the pocket, or maybe even make a copy and glue it on the back of her so she reminds me of that integration of the mundane and the magical, and how can I bring these into all the different areas of my life. So she is going to help me bridge those different worlds, help me not get lost in the imaginal and the magical, but be able to travel between all the different areas and realms of my life. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Love this so much. Thanks for the input. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here live. Thanks for catching the replay. And I look forward to seeing you guys all bright and early on Thursday morning if you're available to come and play. I will see you guys all then. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Carol. Happy to